The transport ship landed with a heavy thud on the rocky surface of Kepler 442b. Dust clouds rose around the landing pad as the engines slowly powered down. Jisoo pressed his face against the small window and looked out at his new home. The planet looked strange and beautiful at the same time. Red and purple crystals grew everywhere like giant trees. They sparkled in the light of the two suns overhead. Between the crystal formations, he could see the small buildings of New Busan colony. It looked tiny compared to the vast wilderness around it. "Welcome to the edge of nowhere," said the pilot, over the speaker. "Good luck out there." Jisoo grabbed his bag and walked down the ramp with the other new arrivals. The air felt thick and warm. It smelled like metal and something sweet he could not name. 3 other people had come on the same transport. They all looked nervous as they stepped onto the alien ground. A woman with short black hair walked toward them. She wore a blue uniform with patches that showed she was in charge. Her name tag said Administrator Minji Kim. "Welcome to New Busan," she said with a tired smile. "I hope you are ready to work hard. This place is not like Earth. Everything here wants to kill you." One of the new arrivals, a young man named Do-Yun, laughed nervously. "She is joking, right?" Minji did not smile back. "No, I am not joking." She led them to a small building near the center of the colony. Inside, the walls were covered with maps and warning signs. Red circles marked dangerous areas around the settlement. Pictures showed strange plants and animals that lived on the planet. "Sit down," Minji said, pointing to some chairs. "Time for your safety briefing." Jisoo looked around the room. The walls had deep scratch marks in them. The scratches looked like they came from very large claws. Some of the marks went all the way through the metal wall panels. "First rule," Minji began, "never go outside the fence alone. Second rule, never go outside the fence at night. Third rule, if you see glowing eyes in the dark, do not run. Running makes them chase you." She pointed to a large picture on the wall. It showed a creature that looked like a wolf, but bigger. Its fur was completely black like polished stone. Its eyes glowed bright yellow in the photo. "These are shadow hounds," Minji said. "They are the reason we have so many rules. They are smart, fast, and deadly. In the past month, they have killed 17 people from our colony." Do-Hyun raised his hand. "How big are they?" "About the size of a large wolf from Earth. But they are much more dangerous. They hunt in packs and they can think like humans. Some people say they can walk through walls, but that might just be stories." Jisoo studied the picture more carefully. The creature's eyes seemed to look right at him. There was something in those eyes that did not look like a simple animal. It looked intelligent, almost sad. "What do they want?" Jisoo asked. Minji shrugged. "To kill us, probably. They attack our outer buildings almost every night. We have tried to catch some alive, but they always escape or die trying. They would rather die than let us study them." The door opened and another woman entered. She was older and wore a security uniform. Her name tag said Chief Bora Park. She had scars on her arms and a serious look on her face. "Any questions about the hounds?" Bora asked. "Have you tried to communicate with them?" Jisoo asked. Bora laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Communicate? Kid, these things are killers. They do not want to talk. They want to eat us." "But if they are intelligent, like you said?" "Intelligence does not mean friendly," Bora said firmly. "A smart enemy is more dangerous than a stupid one. These creatures have been planning their attacks. They know our patrol schedules. They know our weak spots. That is not the kind of intelligence we want to meet." She walked to the wall and pointed to the scratch marks. "See these? A hound made them last week. It got inside our outer fence and tried to break into the food storage. When our guards came, it disappeared like smoke." "How did it get through the fence?" asked Sumi, one of the other new arrivals. "That is what we want to know," Bora said. "The fence was not damaged. The gates were locked. But somehow it got inside. That is why some people think they can walk through solid things." Minji showed them more pictures. Some showed the damage the hounds had done to buildings. Others showed the crystal forests where they lived. The crystals grew so thick in some places that they blocked out the sunlight completely. The hounds live deep in the crystal forests, Minji explained. We do not know how many there are. Could be dozens, could be hundreds. They only come out to hunt, usually at night. What do they eat normally? Jisoo asked. Small animals? Fish. From the streams and apparently us when they can catch us, Bora said. The planet has plenty of wildlife, but they seem to prefer hunting humans now. As the sun began to set, Minji showed them to their living quarters. The buildings were simple but clean. Each person got a small room with a bed, desk, and storage space. The walls were thick metal with no windows. Why no windows? Do-hyun asked. The hounds like to look inside, Minji said. Windows make them curious. Curious hounds are dangerous hounds. That night, Jisoo lay in his bed and listened to the sounds outside. The colony was quiet, except for the hum of generators and the footsteps of night guards, but from somewhere in the distance he could hear howling. It was not like the howling of earth wolves. This sound was deeper, more musical. It had a sad quality that made Jisoo feel sorry for the creatures making it. He got up and pressed his ear against the wall. The howling continued for several minutes. Other howls answered from different directions. It sounded like they were talking to each other across the dark crystal forests. Jisoo thought about what Minji had said. The hounds were intelligent. They had complex behaviors and could plan attacks. But intelligence did not always mean evil. Maybe they were just afraid like the humans were afraid of them. He decided that tomorrow he would ask more questions about these shadow hounds. Something about them interested him in a way he could not explain. Maybe there was more to their story than just killing and hunting. The howling slowly faded away. But Jisoo stayed awake for a long time, wondering what the creatures were trying to say to each other in their strange, beautiful voices. 3 weeks had passed since Jisoo arrived at New Busan Colony. He had been assigned to work as a mining engineer, checking the crystal formations for valuable minerals. His job took him to the outer areas of the colony, close to the dangerous zones marked in red on the maps. Today, Jisoo worked with his partner Hyun, a quiet man who had been at the colony for 2 years. They carried heavy equipment through the crystal forest, testing the rocks and taking samples. Stay close, Hyun warned as they walked between the tall crystal trees. The hounds like to watch us work. I can feel their eyes sometimes. Jisoo looked around but saw nothing except the sparkling crystals and strange purple plants. The forest was beautiful but eerily quiet. No birds sang here. No insects buzzed. Only the soft sound of wind through the crystal branches broke the silence. They reached their work site near a stream that ran clear and cold between the crystals. Jisoo set up his equipment while Hyun kept watch. The work was slow and careful. Each rock sample had to be tested and recorded. After 2 hours, Hyun said he needed to go back to the colony for more testing supplies. I will be gone for 1 hour, he said. Do not leave this spot. Do not go anywhere alone. Jisoo nodded and continued his work. The samples showed good mineral content. The company would be happy with these results. He was so focused on his work that he did not notice the strange sounds coming from deeper in the forest. A low whining noise caught his attention. It sounded like an animal in pain. Jisoo looked up from his equipment and listened carefully. The sound came again, weaker this time. He knew he should wait for Hyun to come back. He knew he should not investigate alone, but the sound was so sad and desperate that he could not ignore it. Jisoo grabbed his emergency kit and followed the sound deeper into the crystal forest. The whining grew louder as he walked carefully between the sharp crystal formations. After 10 minutes, he found the source of the noise. A shadow hound was trapped in a metal snare near a small clearing. The creature was magnificent and terrifying at the same time. Its black fur shined like polished stone. Its amber eyes glowed with intelligence and pain. Blood covered its back leg where the trap had cut deep into the flesh. The hound saw Jisoo and tried to growl, but it was too weak. It tried to use its strange ability to phase through solid things, but nothing happened. The creature was dying. Jisoo should have run away. Every safety rule said to avoid the hounds at all costs. But looking into those intelligent amber eyes, he saw something that reminded him of an injured dog he had helped as a child on Earth. Easy there. Jisoo said softly in Korean. I want to help you. The hound stopped struggling and watched him carefully. Its breathing was fast and shallow. Blood loss was making it weak. Jisoo approached very slowly, talking in a calm voice. I know you can understand me. Your eyes are too smart for a simple animal. Let me help you. He knelt down near the trap and examined it carefully. It was an illegal snare, probably set by poachers who wanted to catch hounds for their valuable fur. The design was cruel and meant to cause maximum damage. The hound watched every move Jisoo made but did not try to attack. Its amber eyes followed his hands as he worked on the trap mechanism. This is going to hurt, Jisoo warned, still speaking in Korean, but I have to get you free. Using his engineering tools, Jisoo carefully opened the trap. The hound made a soft whimpering sound as the metal released its leg, but it did not snap at him. Blood flowed freely from the wound. Jisoo opened his emergency medical kit and cleaned the wound as best he could. The hound flinched but stayed still. He wrapped bandages around the injured leg and gave the creature some water from his bottle. There, he said gently. That should help until you can get proper care. The hound tried to stand but stumbled. Its leg could not support its weight. Jisoo helped steady the large creature, surprised by how warm and solid it felt. The fur was softer than he had expected. For a moment, human and hound looked into each other's eyes. Jisoo saw intelligence there, and perhaps gratitude. The hound seemed to be studying his face, memorizing it. Jisoo, where are you? Yun's voice echoed through the forest. The hound's ears perked up at the sound of another human approaching. It pulled away from Jisoo and limped quickly into the thick crystal growth. But before disappearing completely, it stopped and looked back at him one more time. Hyun arrived at the clearing, breathing hard from running. What are you doing here? I told you to stay at the work site. I heard something, Jisoo said, quickly packing away his medical supplies. I thought someone might be hurt. Hyun saw the blood on the ground and the broken trap. His face went pale. A hound was here. Are you insane? It could have killed you. It was injured. It needed help. Help? These things are monsters. If Bora finds out about this, she will send you back to Earth on the next transport. They gathered their equipment and hurried back to the colony. Hyun promised not to tell anyone what had happened, but he made Jisoo promise never to do anything so dangerous again. That night, Jisoo could not sleep. He kept thinking about the amber eyes of the hound and the way it had looked back at him before, leaving. There had been something almost human in that look. He wondered if the creature would survive its injury. He wondered if it understood that he had tried to help. Most of all, he wondered if the stories about hounds being mindless killers were completely true. The next morning, Jisoo returned to his regular work duties. But part of his mind was always thinking about the wounded hound somewhere in the crystal forest. 2 weeks passed after Jisoo's encounter with the wounded hound. He had not told anyone else about what happened, but he could not stop thinking about it. Every day when he went out to work in the crystal forest, he looked for signs of the creature. Jisoo started bringing extra food in his lunch pack. At first, he told himself it was just in case he got extra hungry during the long workdays, but he knew the real reason. He hoped to see the hound again. On a quiet afternoon while working alone near the stream, Jisoo left half of his protein bar on a flat rock near where he had found the trapped hound. When he came back the next day, the food was gone. This continued for several days. Jisoo would leave small pieces of food, and they would always disappear overnight. He never saw what took them, but he hoped it was the black hound with amber eyes. One evening, Jisoo was working late on his mineral samples when he heard a soft sound behind him. He turned around slowly and saw the hound standing at the edge of the clearing. It was the same creature he had helped. He could tell by the way it favored its left rear leg. The hound was watching him carefully, ready to run if he made any sudden moves. But it did not look afraid. It looked curious. "Hello there," Jisoo said softly in Korean. "How is your leg feeling?" The hound tilted its head slightly, as if it understood his words. It took a small step closer. then stopped. Jisoo reached into his pack and pulled out a piece of dried meat. He held it out toward the hound but did not move closer. "Are you hungry?" The creature sniffed the air and took another step forward. Its amber eyes never left Jisoo's face. Very slowly it approached until it was close enough to take the food from his hand. The hound's teeth were sharp, but it was gentle when it took the meat. Its fur felt warm and soft when it brushed against his fingers. After eating, the creature sat down like a large dog and continued to watch him. "You are not what they say you are," Jisoo said quietly. "You are not a mindless killer." Over the next few weeks, these meetings continued. The hound, which Jisoo had started calling Nero because of its black fur, would appear when he worked late. At first, it kept its distance, but gradually it began to trust him more. Nero would sit near Jisoo while he worked, sometimes for hours at a time. The creature seemed fascinated by the human's activities. It would watch him test rock samples and record data on his electronic tablet. One day, Inha, the colony's plant scientist, found Jisoo during one of these meetings. She had come looking for him because he was late returning from his work shift. Inha froze when she saw the massive black hound sitting calmly beside Jisoo. Her hand moved toward the emergency beacon on her belt. "Do not call for help," Jisoo said, quickly. "It will not hurt you, just move slowly." "Are you completely crazy?" Inha whispered. "That thing could tear us both apart." "Look at it," Jisoo said. "Really look at it. Does it look like it wants to hurt anyone?" Inha stared at Nero, who was watching her with curious amber eyes. The hound made no aggressive moves. It simply observed her with obvious intelligence. "I have been studying these creatures from a distance," Inha said slowly. "Their behavior patterns are very complex, much more complex than we first thought." She sat down carefully, keeping her movements slow and calm. Nero watched her but did not seem alarmed. "I think they have their own language," Inha continued. "The howling patterns are too organized to be random, and their pack hunting strategies show planning that would require communication." "So you think they are really intelligent?" "Not just intelligent, I think they have a culture, a society, maybe even art and religion." Nero seemed to understand they were talking about his kind. He made a soft sound, almost like a purr, and moved closer to Jisoo. "How long has this been going on?" Inha asked. "A few weeks. Ever since I helped him when he was trapped." "The other hounds must know about this. If they wanted to hurt you, they would have done it by now. The fact that they allow this means something important." As the sun began to set, Nero stood up and prepared to leave. But before going, he did something that surprised both humans. He touched his nose gently to Jisoo's hand, like a dog showing affection. Then the great black hound disappeared into the crystal forest, leaving Jisoo and Inha staring after him in amazement. "Promise me you will not tell the others about this," Jisoo said. "Not yet." Inha nodded slowly. "But Jisoo, be very careful. If the security team finds out, they will want to capture him for study. And if they try to do that, what, I think, his pack will come for him, and they will not be as gentle as he is." That night, Jisoo lay in bed thinking about what Inha had said. Nero trusted him now, but that trust was fragile. One wrong move by the humans could destroy everything they had built together. He had to find a way to protect his unlikely friend, while also helping his fellow colonists understand that not all hounds were enemies. Nero had been visiting Jisoo for over a month now. Each meeting taught Jisoo something new about the intelligent creature. Nero understood simple Korean words and could follow basic commands. He would sit, stay, and come when called, just like a trained dog from Earth. But Jisoo knew Nero was much more than a dog. The creature's eyes held a depth of intelligence that sometimes made Jisoo feel like he was the one being studied. One afternoon, Nero did something completely unexpected. Instead of sitting down for their usual quiet meeting, the hound stood at the edge of the clearing and looked back at Jisoo. Then he took a few steps toward the deeper forest and looked back again. "You want me to follow you?" Jisoo asked. Nero made a soft sound and took a few more steps into the crystal forest. Jisoo knew this was dangerous. No human had ever gone deep into the hound territory and returned alive. but something in Nero's behavior told him this was important. "Lead the way," Jisoo said, grabbing his emergency kit. Nero led him through parts of the crystal forest that Jisoo had never seen before. The crystals grew thicker and taller here, creating a maze of sparkling corridors. Some crystals were as wide as buildings and stretched high above their heads like frozen waterfalls. They walked for almost an hour through this crystal wonderland. Jisoo marveled at the beauty around him, but he also felt nervous. He was farther from the colony than any human had ever been. Finally, Nero stopped at the entrance to a large cave system carved into a hillside, covered with purple crystals. The cave mouth was hidden behind hanging crystal formations that acted like a natural curtain. "Is this your home?" Jisoo asked. Nero looked at him seriously, then walked into the cave. After a moment of hesitation, Jisoo followed. Inside the cave, Jisoo's breath caught in his throat. The walls were covered with paintings. Not random scratches or simple pictures, but detailed artwork that told stories. The paintings showed hounds, hunting together, caring for their young, and performing what looked like ceremonies around large crystals. But what shocked Jisoo most were the paintings that showed the crystals themselves. The hounds had painted them with incredible detail and obvious reverence. These were not just pictures. They were religious art. A low growl made Jisoo turn around. 3 more hounds had entered the cave behind him. They were larger than Nero, with silver and gray fur instead of black. Their amber eyes glowed in the dim cave light. The largest hound, with silver fur and old scars across its face, stepped forward. This was clearly the pack leader. Its gaze was intense and calculating as it studied the human who had dared to enter their sacred space. Nero moved between Jisoo and the pack leader. He made several soft sounds, almost like he was explaining something. The silver hound listened, then looked back at Jisoo with what seemed like curiosity rather than hostility. More hounds appeared from deeper in the cave system. Soon, Jisoo was surrounded by over a dozen of the magnificent creatures, but none of them attacked. They simply watched him with intelligent eyes. The pack leader approached Jisoo slowly. It was even larger up close, probably weighing as much as a small horse. Its scarred face spoke of many battles, but its eyes held the same intelligence Jisoo had seen in Nero. Without thinking about the danger, Jisoo bowed slightly to the pack leader, the way he would show respect to an elder in Korean culture. The silver hound tilted its head, seeming surprised by this gesture. Then something amazing happened. The pack leader led Jisoo deeper into the cave, showing him more paintings and carvings. Other hounds followed, no longer seeing him as a threat, but as a guest. In the deepest chamber, Jisoo found the most incredible sight of all. Hundreds of crystal formations filled a massive underground cavern, but these crystals were different from the ones outside. They pulsed with soft light and seemed to sing with a low, beautiful humming sound. The hounds had built a kind of shrine around the largest crystal. Ancient paintings covered every surface, telling the story of their people going back thousands of years. "You have been here long before humans came," Jisoo said softly. The pack leader made a sound that almost seemed like agreement. It touched one of the paintings with its paw, showing Jisoo images of the planet before human colonization. Through the paintings, Jisoo began to understand the real problem. The human mining operations were not just taking valuable crystals. They were destroying sacred sites that had been important to the hounds for thousands of years. The attacks on the colony were not random violence. They were desperate attempts to protect their holy places from destruction. One painting showed hounds and other creatures living in harmony around crystal formations that no longer existed. Another showed the arrival of human ships and the beginning of the mining operations. The pack leader showed Jisoo painting after painting, telling the story of his people's loss and anger. But in the newest paintings, Jisoo saw something different. Images of a single hound meeting with a human. Images of trust growing between the two species. "You want peace," Jisoo realized. "You want us to understand." The silver hound looked directly into his eyes and made a sound that was almost like a sigh. In that moment, Jisoo felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was not just a mining engineer anymore. He was a bridge between two intelligent species who had been fighting because they did not understand each other. As the pack escorted him back toward the colony territory, Jisu's mind raced with possibilities. He had to find a way to share what he had learned, but he also knew that many humans would not believe him. Worse, some humans would see the Hound caves as another mining opportunity, rather than as sacred sites that needed protection. The future of both species might depend on how well he could convince his fellow colonists that the Shadow Hounds were not monsters, but people with their own rights and culture. Jisu spent 3 days trying to figure out how to tell the colony administrators about his discovery. Every plan seemed dangerous. If he told them about the Hound caves, they might send military teams to capture the pack. If he showed them the paintings, they might see them as evidence of valuable archaeological sites to exploit. Before he could make a decision, nature made it for him. The solar storm hit without warning on a Tuesday morning. The colony's early warning systems had been damaged by smaller storms the week before, so no one was prepared for the massive wave of radiation that swept across the planet. First, the main power grid failed. Then the backup generators overloaded and shut down. Within hours, the colony's life support systems began to fail. The artificial atmosphere processors stopped working, and the temperature inside the buildings began to drop rapidly. Administrator Minji called an emergency meeting in the main hall. The building was already cold enough that people could see their breath when they spoke. "The situation is critical," she announced to the gathered colonists. "Our communication systems are down. No rescue ships can reach us during the storm. The backup power will last maybe 12 hours. Chief Engineer Young-ho stood up with a grim expression. "The main reactor is completely fried. Even if the storm passes tomorrow, it will take weeks to repair the damage. We do not have weeks." "What are our options?" asked Dr. Yunji, the colony's medical officer. "We have emergency shelters in the basement levels," Minji said, "but they are not designed for long-term survival. Maybe 3 days if we are lucky." The room filled with worried voices as people realized how serious their situation was. They were trapped on an alien planet with no power, no heat, and no way to call for help. Jisu knew what he had to do. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. "I have an idea," he said, standing up, "but you are not going to like it." "At this point, we will try anything," Minji said. "The Shadow Hounds know this planet better than we do. They have survived here for thousands of years without technology. They might know places where we can shelter until help arrives." The room erupted in angry voices. "Are you insane?" Bora shouted. "Those things will kill us all." "They are not what we think they are," Jisu said firmly. "They are intelligent. They have culture and art. They might help us if we approach them correctly." "This is not the time for fairy tales," Young-ho said. "We need real solutions." "This is a real solution," Jisu insisted. "Give me a chance to try." "Absolutely not," Bora said. "I will not let you commit suicide." But as the hours passed and the temperature continued to drop, people began to get desperate. The emergency shelters were overcrowded and running out of air. Several elderly colonists had already collapsed from the cold. That night, as the colony faced what might be its final hours, Jisu made his decision. He grabbed his warmest clothes and slipped out of the emergency shelter while the guards were distracted. The crystal forest was dark and cold under the storm. Electrical discharges lit up the sky with strange colors. Jisu could barely see where he was going, but he knew the way to Nero's territory by memory. He found his friend waiting for him near their usual meeting place, as if Nero had somehow known he would come. "Nero," Jisu said, his teeth chattering from the cold. "My people are in danger. We need help. We need shelter." The Black Hound looked at him seriously, then tilted his head toward the deeper forest. Without hesitation, Jisu followed. They traveled through the storm to the cave system where Jisu had met the pack. The silver-furred leader was waiting for them, along with dozens of other hounds. Using gestures and simple words, Jisu tried to explain the situation. The pack leader seemed to understand the urgency. After a brief conversation with the other hounds, Using their complex system of sounds and body language, a decision was made. The entire pack began moving toward the colony. What happened next became legend among the human survivors. As the colonists huddled in their failing shelters, expecting to die from the cold, a miracle occurred. Shadow hounds began appearing at the shelter entrances. Instead of attacking, they waited patiently. Nero found Jisoo and led him outside, where the pack leader stood waiting. Through Jisoo's translation, the hounds offered to guide the humans to natural caves that would provide warmth and protection from the storm. The caves had geothermal springs that would keep them alive until rescue arrived. At first, the colonists were terrified. But as the cold grew worse and death seemed certain, they began to follow Jisoo and the hounds into the crystal forest. The journey was difficult and scary. Families carried sick children through the dark forest, guided only by the glowing eyes of the shadow hounds. But the hounds were patient and gentle, helping humans who stumbled and protecting them from other dangers in the forest. The caves the hounds led them to were warm and dry. Natural hot springs provided heat and clean water. The hounds shared their food stores and showed the humans which local plants were safe to eat. For 5 days, humans and hounds lived together in the caves. Children played with young hound pups. Adults learned to communicate with the pack through gestures and simple sounds. The artificial barriers between the species began to break down. When the rescue ships finally arrived, they found something unprecedented in human colonial history. 2 intelligent species working together for survival. Jisoo served as translator during the first official meetings between human and hound representatives. The pack leader, whom they learned was called Silver Wind in the hound language, negotiated with Administrator Minji for a new agreement. The mining operations would be moved away from the sacred crystal sites. In return, the hounds would help humans navigate the dangerous parts of the planet and share their knowledge of its resources. Months later, New Busan had become the most successful colony in the sector. The partnership with the Shadow Hounds had opened up new areas for exploration and revealed mineral deposits that would never have been found without local guidance. Jisoo kept his job as the official liaison between species. Nero became his permanent partner, accompanying him on surveys and helping to build trust between humans and hounds. Sometimes late at night, Jisoo would sit with Nero outside the colony walls and listen to the songs of the hound packs echoing through the crystal forest. The sounds no longer seemed frightening. They sounded like home. The colony had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from conquering your fears, but from extending trust to those you do not understand. And sometimes that trust is rewarded with friendship that can save lives.